Hi, everyone. I'm glad you're able to join us on the TRF Tuesday for this part 7 of introducing how Masgutova neurosensory motor reflex integration techniques can be used to help us release stress and recover from trauma. My name is Heather Taylor. I'm an occupational therapist and I've been an MNRI core specialist since 2015, and I've been using these techniques exclusively in my practice since taking my first class 10 years ago. So MNRI has been a real game changer in both my personal and professional life. And so I'm happy to be able to share this information with you. So to review, in the weeks leading up to this discussion, Pamela, Isabel, Rebecca, and I have discussed moving out of reaction into action, reflexes that help us expand the lungs for deep breathing, release past negative protection and survival, staying present in the here and now, staying grounded and stable. And so this week, we're going to be covering 2 additional reflexes, which help to activate our brain potential and encourage us to be open for joy and well-being. So the first of one is going to be our hand supporting. So hand supporting emerges at about 12 weeks in utero and is after the first 6 months of our life. So we can see this reflex firsthand if we hold a baby under their arms and then we lower them forward and downward towards a horizontal surface. So as the baby sees the surface approaching, their hands will open and then they will reach out to meet the surface. And this allows their arms to act as like a shock absorber so that they can keep their head free from injuries. So around 6 months of age, babies will have the same response as they move towards a vertical surface as well. So as we just mentioned, hand supporting helps to protect our head if we lose our balance and we fall. And as this integrates, it also helps us to keep our head safe from things moving toward us in a variety of directions. So from in front of us to the sides, as well as if things are falling from above our head. It plays an important role in our visual understanding of distance and depth. It provides one of our first opportunities to learn that we can see items that are close to us as well as those that are far away. And so when a baby's learning, when they're laying on their belly and they're learning to push up with their arms, they're gaining strength in their arms and their neck muscles, but it's also giving the visual system a bit of a workout too, that they're starting to understand the difference between near and far. It's also foundational for our personal understanding of where our body is in space. So I had mentioned that I used to work in the schools for quite a while, and a lot of the teachers there used the concept of the bubble to teach kids about their appropriate physical boundaries between them and others. And so they didn't necessarily know it, but they were talking about hand supporting, because this reflex teaches us that this is where my physical world ends and the rest of the world begins. So with this idea in mind, it also helps with physical boundaries and the idea that I can keep danger at an arm's length away from me. Hand supporting also helps our body to develop emotional boundaries as well. So this is a great reflex for those of us that feel the need to control situations when we're stressed. Oftentimes, in that case, we're stepping outside of our appropriate boundaries and we're stepping into others' physical space or into their business. And this reflex is also great for those of us that have a hard time standing up for ourselves. So from a physical standpoint, we have a right, and even some would say a responsibility, to protect all that is within this space around our body. And so emotionally, we also have the right to say no to things in life. So hand supporting would be very helpful for those of us that are sometimes called people pleasers, because we don't have to do things just to keep others happy if it's not making us happy as well. So this reflex is equally important for those of us that need to recognize where other people's boundaries are, as well as those of us that need to be more comfortable asserting our boundaries. So, and just, we talked about Robinson grasp last week, and we talked about it being important for us because we could reach out and we could take things that are offered and things that we're interested in, and hand supporting is important for our ability to give to others as well. And it helps us with letting go of things that we no longer want to be holding on to. So we're going to review a few different techniques to help us integrate our hand supporting reflex. But before we jump into doing the movements, I want to make sure everybody can clearly see that the stimulus point for hand supporting is right here at the base of the palm. So you can hold on to it with a finger across the bottom like this, or you can turn your hand and hold the bottom of the palm of your hand like this. They're both equally acceptable, whatever's more comfortable for your body. And so when we do the first set of exercises, we'll be holding there. And before we do the ones that are the wall push-up, we're going to be thinking about the stimulus point being here as well as in the fingertips. So when we do the one on the wall, it's going to be very important that we're not doing a flat hand, but more of at the base of the palm and the fingertips. So for this first motion, I'm going to go ahead and stop the share there. So for this first motion, if everybody wants to join me, you can stay seated or you can stand, whichever one is more comfortable for you. And what we're going to do is we're going to move into the pattern. So with hand supporting, we're going to be holding here, whichever way is more comfortable. We're going to take a breath. And on the exhale, we're going to extend our arm forward. So we'll do that again on the other side. So we're holding at the base of the palm and extending forward. We'll do again with the other side. And when we're extending, we want to make sure that we're leaving just a little bit of room here in the elbow. We don't want to hyperextend our elbow and lock our upper extremity. We just want a gentle extension of the arm, something nice and comfortable. So we'll do one more from each side. So we'll come in. And one way to keep that elbow nice and safe is actually if you turn your hands in just a tiny bit. When it reaches towards the end point there, so we reach and just a little bit of a turn. So that is moving into the pattern. So the next part that we're going to do is we're going to be moving out of the pattern. So with out of the pattern, so into and this way. So out of the pattern, we're going to hold the back of our hand and we're going to pull it back towards our shoulder. So if everyone wants to take a breath, and on the exhale, we're going to pull towards the shoulder. And then we'll do the other side. So we start with the extended and pull it back towards the shoulder. And we'll do two more each side. I'm going to turn to the side so you can see it better from this angle. And the other, starting an extension. Do one more each side. And again, start an extension and pull back. So then let's do three where we incorporate both of those movements together. So for the first one, we're going to be moving out. So we're going to extend. Turning just a bit when you get to the end. And then we're going to hold on the back of our hand and pull it back. And the other side. So we're going to extend. And pull back. And when we're doing these motions, it should be a comfortable 20 to 25% pressure. So it's enough that your hand knows that it's having some resistance, but not so much that it should cause any uncomfortableness or cramping or anything along that lines. Do forward and backward. We'll do one more to each side. and backwards. Last one. And back. So that is how we can do it in a seated manner. And then I also wanted to show you how we can do it as more of a wall push-up. So let's see if I can share this camera and you can see me over here. So as I said, when we're doing this one, we want to be having the pressure here at the base of the palm as well as the fingertips. So we're not going for the flat hand, we're going for more of a rounded pressure. And so when I teach this one, I tell everyone find a comfortable space on the wall that where your arm is about 90-degree angle. And then we're going to take just a slight step back so that you feel a little bit of the weight into your hands. So I'm going to be using the base of my palm and my fingertips. And again, just having my hands turned in just slightly to help protect the joints. And we're going to take a breath. And as we blow out, we're going to go down towards the surface. And then we take another breath. And we're going to come back up. So every one of these motions should take about 7 to 10 seconds. So we're going to take a breath. Come down. And another breath. Come back. And I'll do one more, noticing the difference in how we feel with the amount of space that's in front of us. So take a breath. Feel how this feels to come forward. And then take another breath. And feel how it feels to extend. So that is a second technique that we can use for hand supporting. We'll flip back on. Oh, it's not the one I wanted. There we go. There we go. So that is the first part of our exercises today. So the next one we're going to talk about is being open to joy and well-being. So I'm going to share my screen here again. And we are going to move over. So just like with hand supporting, Landau emerges at about 12 weeks gestational age. And it stays active for us for the first 2 years of life. And then it starts to integrate into our whole movement, our whole body movement patterns. So when a baby's laying on their stomach and they become interested in something that they see, the extensor muscles on the back are activated. And what we're going to see is an extension of the whole spine and the limbs. So the spine extends backwards, the head reaches upwards, and the arms and legs extend as well, as you can see this adorable little girl doing here. So in our daily lives, Landau is foundational in helping us develop our visual perceptual skills. So before this reflex becomes active, most of the visual input that we've processed was received when we were being supported by others. So when someone placed us on the floor on our back, we saw what was above us. When we were being held, we could see the person who was holding us. But when we were placed on our belly, our visual field was very limited. And so our curiosity starts us to say, oh, there's something interesting there. And we start to rise up and pay attention to whatever it is that's exciting us. So generally a caregiver's face or a toy or food, something motivating that we want to see. And so this head movement lays the foundation for our head writing skills, which are also important for all sorts of things with our vision and balance as a whole. So because Landau activates the extensor muscles in our back, it helps our spine to be flexible and helps us to have good posture. So I don't have to tell you that most of the activities out there today really help us have a flexed kind of posture. So when we're sitting at our desk and we're typing, or we're driving our car, or eating, or playing on our phone, we get kind of that rounded kind of flexed posture. And particularly with our kids, this is starting earlier and earlier because of those car seats, the ones where you can put the kiddo in the car seat, and then you can take the whole car seat out and then take them into the store, and you can put it on the stroller and you can take them for a walk. And so we might have had a lot of movement throughout our day, but for the kiddo that is in that car seat, they've kind of been stuck in this pattern, which is why having babies do tummy time is just so crucially important to help them balance out all of that flexion with some extension. So when we do these extension movements, we're helping the cerebral spinal fluid to flow. And we talked a bit about that last week when we covered spinal parese. But for those that might not have been with us, the cerebral spinal fluid is a water-like substance that floats around our brain and our spinal cord, and they act as a cushion to protect our brain and spinal cord from injuries. So when we do movements like spinal parese and Landau, the movements of our hips and shoulders help that cerebral spinal fluid to pump through the system, which in turn helps our brain to get rid of waste products that it doesn't need, which allows it to have access to more of the nutrition that it does need. And that allows us to have mental clarity and make more well-informed decisions. And so emotionally, if we think back to times in our life that we've naturally assumed this position, it's often during very happy times in our life. So one example that's given is if you think of going to a football game and somebody scores a touchdown, a lot of the players will kind of run up and do like a chest bump against each other. It's a celebration. And in our personal life, we often do this motion when we feel very accomplished with something, that we're like, yes, like I did it. Or when we see somebody that we haven't seen for a long time and we show that we're open for a hug. And so I know this picture is small, but I'm sure everybody can recognize the pure joy on this adorable little girl's face in the picture here. So assuming the Landau position helps us to release stress hormones and activate our endorphins, and those are our happiness hormones. So you can do these seated or standing. So I'll try to show both. So with the Landau, the very first one that we're going to do is just a gentle stretch. We're extending our spine and reaching backwards. So for those of you that are seated, if you want to be at least in the middle of your chair, maybe not having your back all the way up against it, and you can have your hands up and just take a breath and then lean towards the back. So, and just being open. I'll do that one more time for the people who are being seated. So take a breath. We have our arms open and we exhale, leaning back. And so for those of you that will be standing, let's see, I will go ahead and I will stop share on that one so we can all see. A standing Landau. So we're just going to be standing upright. We're going to have our arms extended up. We're going to take a breath. And we're going to extend our spine, lean back, just be open, open, open. And we'll do it again. So take a breath, arms up, and lean back. And so that is Landau. But if we, in that one, we feel more of the upper Landau, we can feel the arms extending. So if we want to give it a little extra, we can also do the same with our legs. So we're going, so for those who are seated, you can have your leg, oh, I guess I need to go back a little, sorry. You want to have your leg a little bit behind you. And we're going to take a breath and have our hands up and we're going to lean back. And when we do, we're going to add just a little bit of pressure into that back leg. And then we would do the other side. So we scoot to the other side of the chair, have our leg back, arms up, take a breath. And we're going to extend back. So that is for the people who are going to be seated. But for those of you that are still standing, we're going to do the same motion. So we will be standing with one foot behind us. So right now my weight is on my front foot. Then I'm going to have my arms up. I'm going to take a breath. And I'm going to lean back onto that back foot while I exhale. So, and then standing, you can really feel the stretch in that muscle. So then we'll do the other side. So we're going to have our foot behind us, arms up, take a breath, and gently lean back while we're extending the spine. I'll do 2 more on each side. So we have our foot back, arms up, take a breath, lean back on the exhale. Be open to joy and all the good things that life has to offer. And the other side, take our foot back, arms up, lean back. And we'll do 1 more each side. Foot back, arms up, take a breath, and exhale. And on these last few, notice if you're getting more room, more extension, more flexibility. So, lean back. And also if you feel any differences in your mood, because as I said, this one's a really good one for helping us to be happy. So those are the techniques that I had for you guys today. And so I hope you're feeling the effects of all the work we've done the past couple of days and weeks, I should say. And so are there any questions about the things that we've covered today?
There's one, I'm sure some more will start coming in a second, but there's one about the first movement. Someone asks, when pulling the arm, is it the hand pulling back or the arm doing the movement?
So the hand is kind of stabilizing. The arm is doing most of the movement, but this one's just kind of resisting him, just giving him a little bit of a workout, just a little knowing where it is in space, if that makes sense. It should be a little bit of tension, but nothing that's like uncomfortable or stressing the joint.
Someone's saying, could you show us your feet position on the last movement?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You might have to go pretty close to the couch there, I think.
Let's see.
There you go.
All right, you can see the whole thing now. So when I was doing the Landau, we're standing on the ball or on the toes, basically, the ball of the foot there. And so we're reaching up. And then when we go to lean back, we're putting a bunch of weight into that back leg. So you can bring the heel down if you want to, but that's not the the point on this one is to get the hip movement here, to get that stretch, a really good stretch, which as I'm standing on the ball of my foot, I can feel that extra bit of stretch there. But it's just the weight shift from being forward and then being back on that back leg should help.
Here's one that says, is the hand pulling activity, is that calming generally?
So with all of our reflexes, when we're first getting them, we're moving into a pattern. So we're showing our body what it can do. And then later we're showing it what the opposing movement would be. So it might be initially that somebody really needs to just do the pushing out for a while until that feels comfortable, and then do the pulling in as a secondary motion. So If it doesn't feel comfortable to your body, I would just continue with the movement outward, because that is the primary movement pattern that we're looking for. And then later we can work on differentiating and bringing it back in towards the body.
And then the second part of that is the arm extension. Is that a joy-inducing activity?
It can be, especially when you know that this is my space. It's my right to say what happens in this space. So it is for me. It's one that I've had to work on over the years, and I feel a lot better about it. But sometimes situations come up and I need to practice my hand supporting a little bit more and be able to say like, that's not for me, and be able to say it in a way that I don't feel guilty about not helping someone out or something along that line. So it can be.
I think that's the last one. I just got a question about the recording, so I'll address that. Mm-hmm. The recordings will go up. They usually go up the night of. We've recently rebuilt our website, so it may be a day or so. But if you go to traumaresearchfoundation.org, you can find TRF Tuesday. I'll put the link there, and you can watch the previous ones. And then when this one is available, it will go up there. We're hoping to get it up there tonight, but because it's a new website, we are not promising it. And then Heather, why don't you tell them about next week?
Yep. So thank you for joining us today and the last couple of weeks. And next week, Rebecca is going to be leading us through all of the exercises as one big flow. So I'm hoping you'll be able to join us and see how it feels to go from the moving out of reaction into action, and then go all the way through to being open to joy and well-being. So it'll be there won't be as much education. It will just be more of a flow of movements.